while we're waiting on our root vegetables in the pot, we're going to start working on our leeks. We're going to use these later as a garnish. I love the look of cooked leeks, and because of the way these are grown, you see this nice little tube, you can cut these vertically and end up with these really nice leek rings. The problem with leeks, they are grown in sand, and so you'll get all sorts of sand. In fact, I thought, oh yeah, here's some right there. You'll see the sand. Zoom in on that. See that sand? You get sand all over these things, and it makes for really gritty if you don't clean them properly. The way I like to do it, I chop the green end off and save that. I don't know, wash it out later. I use it for soup stock, something. Wash the green end off of both of these. In fact, you can see, even inside of this leek, there's still some sand right there, there, and there. That stuff is so tough to clean. But what I'll do is I'll then go and I'll cut these into rings and soak them in water. What's going to happen is all that sand is going to fall down to the bottom of the water, and the leeks are going to float up to the top. Thus, no more sand. I always wash my leeks before I put them in the bowl. Again, all this grit that you see inside here, it's just, if you put that in your mouth, and you're going to know that you're eating dirt. So I'll give them a good rinse in a colander first, throw them in the water next. After your leeks have had a chance to sit in the cold water for a while, you want to pull them out of the bowl and put them back into the colander that we used earlier. If you just pour them out, all that dirt that's sitting on the bottom is going to go right back in to our leeks. So we want to make sure they're clean, so pick them out of the water and put them into the colander and let them dry for a little while. We've got the leeks all broken down. It's had a chance to boil for about, simmer for about 30 minutes. So we'll take just a few, just maybe a quarter cup of the leeks and throw them in the broth there and let them simmer for about 5 minutes more. We really don't want to overcook the leek, but we want it just to cook just long enough so that the harshness breaks down a little bit. If you were making this for a party in advance, now would be a good time to take it off, put it in an ice bath, and then after it's cooled down, throw it in the fridge. Now, an ice bath, essentially what you do is you'll fill your sink with some ice and you'll set the pot in the ice up to just below the brim. And you want to stir that. The reason you want to do an ice bath, number one, most fridges aren't designed to cool down a pot like this in a period of time in which bacteria won't be able to form. You don't want bacteria in your soup, so by putting it in an ice bath, it cools it down quickly, saves your refrigerator the hassle, and also keeps your food safe. But yeah, you can make this a couple of days in advance and then come back to the next steps that we'll be doing next and not have a problem. So depending on if you stopped or to wait a couple of days, or you're coming back now and you've been cooking this the whole time, it really doesn't make a difference. If it's cold, it goes into the food processor. If it's hot, it goes right into the food processor. But what we're going to do is we're going to take all the vegetables that we've been cooking up, and we're going to throw it in the food processor and really puree it until there's almost nothing left of consistency. Now, one thing to keep in mind before you do that, pull the tarragon and pull all the bay leaves out. So make sure you count how many bay leaves go in before you do this so that you'll know how many to take out. It just doesn't break down well in a food processor. The tarragon's woody, the bay leaves have got all sorts of stringiness in the leaves, and if you actually miss some, you got to go and you got to strain your bisque. It's a mess. So what we'll do is we'll take the bisque that we've made, we'll put it in our food processor about 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 different sets of doing it. There's no way I can put the entire bisque in here in one fell swoop. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender. That's not a problem. The only thing with the blender is you want to make sure you put a little liquid in the bottom of the blender first. Some blenders have stirring sticks that makes it really easy. The challenge with the blender is because it's so narrow, sometimes the big chunks of the food that we've done will get caught up and won't make it down to the blades. But if you just play around with it, you might have to poke it with a fork while the blender's off, and ultimately our goal is just to puree all of this stuff into a nice little bisque. Alright, I pureed all of the vegetables into this nice Nice puree. It is absolutely beautiful, velvety texture. One thing you'll notice, I have not put a stitch of salt in this yet. In fact, I use low sodium chicken stock. My personal belief, and chefs will differ amongst this, my personal belief is I like to add the salt at the end. I like to have more control over how much salt goes in. I've used chicken stock in the past with salt in it, and I reduced it down when it came time to really get it right. It was just too salty, so I always prefer to add salt at the very end. But it's pureed down. It is, again, velvety texture. We're going to put this on and let this sit over medium heat for just a few minutes to bring it back up to temperature, and then we're going to finish it. In the meantime, we're going to work on our garnishes. The way to do this, I love this soup because it's, or this bisque. I love this bisque because when you put it in the bowl, it just looks so hearty. And because it's so hearty, what we're going to do is we're going to build an island of some of those leeks that we use. We'll saute those in some bacon fat that we'll get by sauteing our bacon. But then, so we'll have this nice island of leeks. We'll top it with some crumpled bacon, or pancetta is what I'm going to be using today. And then we'll take a little yogurt that we've thinned down with just some regular milk and drizzle it over the top of it. It will look beautiful and will taste incredible. We're going to start working on our garnish. I've got about a quarter pound of pancetta here. If you can't find pancetta, you can always use bacon. They're both salt cured. They're both pork. The only difference is pancetta comes from the back, bacon comes from the front. Bacon's usually smoked, but I really like the flavor that pancetta gives as a garnish to this dish. So we're going to throw some pancetta into our pan, and we're going to let this fry up until it gets really crispy. Also, we're going to save the fat that comes out of here, because we're going to use that fat to cook our leeks a little later on. I tell you, that pancetta is it looks so good and crispy. I pulled the pancetta out of the pan. I'm going to take some of these leeks that we did earlier. I'm going to throw them in the pan. I'm not taking any bacon grease out. I'm not getting any of the drippings in the bottom of the pan. I want all that flavor to go all over these leeks. I've got a quarter cup of natural, just good old-fashioned, regular, plain yogurt. Love this stuff. This will add so much of that, it will enhance that velvety texture just because of the way that the yogurt will interact with the ingredients we've already got in here. And lastly, I've got 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. This, again, tastes and smells like fall, and is just going to enhance all the flavors in our bisque. We are ready to eat. This stuff, oh, again, I know I've said this all throughout this episode, it smells delicious. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our bisque and put it into a bowl. As you can see, it's really thick. We're going to top that with a little bit of our leek island. Take one of our pieces, oh, you can't see me, there we go. Take one of our pieces of pancetta, crumble it over the top. Add a little fresh tarragon that we've got left over around the outside. And then last but not least, I've got a little yogurt that I've cut with just a hair of just regular old milk, just to make it a little easier to pour. And we'll put just a little bit there in the middle. And there you've got it. Oh, this dish not only looks delicious, it's going to taste incredible. Thanks for joining me here at cookwithtom.com. Remember, this stuff, you can make this stuff at home. So easy to make, just requires just a little bit of understanding, and you can make some incredible dishes. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you next time.